We've talked about this before about in reference to who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, right? Before I get into the update from Seymour Hersh, I do want to remind you what everyone has been saying, mainly people in mainstream media. Now, Dan Cohen was awesome enough to post this video, and I've seen this before, but he was awesome enough to remind everybody. Let's remember what people said. So he said, in light of Seymour Hersh bombshell on the U.S. and Norway blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, let's recall how U.S. officials openly incited against it for months and then blamed Russia. Dan, thank you so much for this. Thank you so much. This is based. Let me
The sledgehammer that we have against Putin is to shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and do it permanently.
This is a real, acute, and proven threat.
I'm a big proponent of making sure we stop Nord Stream 2 from happening.
Stopping the Nord Stream.
The sledgehammer that we have against Putin is to shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and do it permanently.
This is a real, acute, and proven threat.
I'm a big proponent of making sure we stop Nord Stream 2 from happening.
Stopping the Nord Stream.
Is to shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and do it permanently.
This is a real, acute, and proven threat.
I'm a big proponent of making sure we stop Nord Stream 2 from happening.
Stopping the Nord Stream 2.
And we need the chancellor is there right now. Assets like the Nord Stream 2.
And, Trump also isn't wrong to identify Nord Stream 2, this pipeline that he talked about today, as problematic.
There is still time to stop Nord Stream 2 if we act quickly.
The timeline for action is short.
And I'm not going to stop working to halt Nord Stream 2 to stop Russia.
End it once and for all.
I mean, he needs to kill the Nord Stream 2 pipeline right now.
And I think the most important thing right now, and what Zelensky said, is they want Nord Stream 2 stopped. That's what I see as the most tangible reason and the tangible effect.
I believe we must stop this Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
We should have brought the project to an end.
There's still time to stop it, but we need to act quickly.
Nord Stream 2 is a danger to peace as we know it.
Nord Stream 2 is energy blackmail.
It's Putin's pipeline. It's a trap a Russian trap.
There will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
We will put an end to it.
Germany should cancel the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline. We're looking at a variety of things we could do there.
We've been so far trying to use other tools to stop the Nord Stream 2.
So you notice they said that was Biden there. Notice he said, we will put an end to it. Remember that.
We got legislation that was appropriate to now have delayed this project significantly. We need further tools. We're prepared to use those tools should you provide them to us. And we've also used our diplomatic capabilities.
This pipeline must be stopped. And the only way to prevent the completion is to use all the tools available to do that.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
Kill Nord Stream 2 now and let it rust beneath the waves of the Baltic.
The operator of the Nord Stream gas pipelines, which run between Russia and Germany, says that 3 lines on the Baltic seabed were damaged on Tuesday.
It was a deliberate act of sabotage, and now the Russians are pumping out disinformation and lies.
So you heard all of those statements about we must stop it now. We have to stop it. We're going to stop it now. And then it goes from that to there was sabotage.
This is clearly an act of sabotage of some sort, and Russia is certainly the most likely suspect. And we killed that pipeline dead.
I like to remind people of what was said. So just in case people forgot, because now we're going to go to, what happened? Oh, balls. I have to go back to this again. Hold on. Now we're going to go to the article because Seymour Hersh, again, I'm going to show you again who he was after we read some of this, because this is not just someone who appeared out of the blue yesterday and doesn't have the experience. This is someone who is an investigative journalist. He's been on shows like Democracy Now! He's been on mainstream media. He also reported during the Vietnam War as well. This guy has been around for a long time. He is not brand new, okay? So he is facing controversy over this article. Now, this was published February 8th. How America took out the Nord Stream pipeline. The New York Times called it a mystery, but the United States executed a covert sea operation that was kept secret until now. Do you think that Seymour wouldn't have vetted his sources before he came forward with this information? Come on. Come on. So let's start because I want to start it right here. Boop. Last June, the Navy divers operating under the cover of a widely publicized midsummer NATO exercise known as the Baltops 22 planted the remotely triggered explosive that 3 months later destroyed 3 of the 4 Nord Stream pipelines, according to a source with direct knowledge of the operational planning. So that's that. I know, Shira. Let's go on. 2 of the pipelines, which were known collectively as Nord Stream 1, had been providing Germany and much of Western Europe with cheap Russian natural gas for more than a decade. A second pair of pipelines called the Nord Stream 2 had been built, but were not yet operational. Now, with the Russian troops massing on the Ukrainian border and the bloodiest war in Europe since 1945 looming, President Biden saw the pipelines as a vehicle for Putin to weaponize natural gas for his political and territorial ambitions. Asked for comment, Adrienne Watson, a White House spokesperson, said this is false and completely fiction. Tammy Thorpe, a spokesperson for the CIA, similarly wrote, this claim is completely and utterly false. Biden's decision to sabotage the pipelines, came after more than 9 months of highly secret back and forth debate inside Washington's national security community about how to best achieve that goal. For much of that time, that issue was not whether to do the mission, but how to get it done with no overt clue as to who was responsible. There was a vital bureaucratic reason for relying on the graduates of the center's hardcore diving school in Panama City. The divers were Navy only and not members of America's Special Operations Command, whose covert operation must be reported to Congress and briefed in advance to the Senate and House leadership, the so-called Gang of 8. The Biden administration was doing everything possible to avoid leaks as the planning took place late in 2021 and into the first months of 2022. Biden and his foreign policy team, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Secretary of State Tony Blinken, and Victoria Nuland, the Undersecretary of State for Policy, had been vocal and consistent in their hostility to the 2 pipelines, which ran side by side for 750 miles under the Baltic Sea for 2 different ports in the northeastern Russia near the Estonian border, passing close to the Danish island of Bornholm before ending in northern Germany. The direct route, which bypassed any need to transit Ukraine, had been a boom for the German economy, which enjoyed an abundance of cheap Russian natural gas, enough to run its factories and heat its homes, while enabling German distributors to sell excess gas at a profit throughout Western Europe. Action that could be traced to the administration would violate U.S. promises to minimize direct conflict with Russia. Secrecy was essential. Here's the important piece. From its early days, Nord Stream 1 was seen by Washington as its anti-Russian NATO partners as a threat to Western dominance. The holding company behind it, Nord Stream AG, was incorporated in Switzerland in 2005 in partnership with Gazprom, a publicly traded Russian company producing enormous profits for shareholders, which is dominated by oligarchs known to be in thrall of Putin. Gazprom controlled 51% of the company, with 4 European energy firms, 1 in France, the Netherlands, and 2 in Germany, sharing the remaining 49% of the stock and having the right to control downstream sales of inexpensive natural gas to local distributors in Germany and Western Europe. Gazprom's profits were shared with the Russian government, and the state gas and oil revenues were estimated in some years to amount to as much as 45% of Russia's annual budget. America's political fears were real. Putin would now have an additional much-needed major source of income, and Germany and the rest of the Western Europe would become addicted to low-cost natural gas supplied by Russia, while diminishing European reliance on America. Highlight this piece here. Diminishing European reliance on America. That's what it's about. This is what it is about. I told you, America wants to be number one. They don't want any country, they don't want Russia, they don't want China to do well economically. You're not supposed to do well to the point where you may not really need to depend on us. That's how the US government feels. The whole idea, and you'll have to watch it if you haven't seen it, watch the interview I did last night or yesterday. I think it was posted last night on Kim Iverson's show with Tara Reid. We talked about this a little bit more thorough. There's things I can say over there on Rumble I can't get into as much on here. But I will say this. Economically, the big issue is the fact that a country like Russia and a country like China really does not need to depend on the United States, especially the way that it may have in the past. So what you have to understand is that when I tell you and I show you what the top 10 banks are in the world, and you see that 5 of them are in China and only 2 are in the US, and most of the banks in the top 5 are from China, that was not always the case. And you need to understand that the United States is starting to lose its grip economically. Some would say somewhat militarily as well. The United States is no longer this powerhouse that it was before. Our economy is failing, and it's not just because of inflation. This has been a long time coming. And if you listen to economists about the future of the American economy, they will explain to you, listen to Michael Hudson, listen to Richard Wolff, they will explain to you the glory days of the American economy are behind us. You got to pay attention to the economics. This is why I try to at least once a week bring in some type of economic conversation. Because there will get to a point. I don't know if it will be in my lifetime or your lifetime. But at some point, you may see a United States that is no longer on top. And that is what they fear. Let's go on. So that piece right there is crucial. It is crucial. In fact, that's exactly what happened. Many Germans saw Nord Stream 1 as part of the deliverance of former Chancellor Willy Brandt's famed Ostpolitik theory, which would enable post-war Germany to rehabilitate itself and other European nations destroyed in World War II by, among other initiatives, utilizing cheap Russian gas to fuel a prosperous Western European market and trading economy. Nord Stream 1 was dangerous enough in the view of NATO and Washington. But Nord Stream 2, whose construction was completed in September of 2021, would, if approved by German regulators, double the amount of cheap gas that would be available to Germany and Western Europe. The second pipeline also would provide enough gas for more than 50% of Germany's annual consumption. Tensions were constantly escalating between Russia and NATO, backed by the aggressive foreign policy of the Biden administration. It's about cheap gas. Opposition to Nord Stream 2 flared on the eve of the Biden inauguration, January 2021, when Senate Republicans led by Ted Cruz repeatedly raised the political threat of cheap Russian natural gas. How's that bipartisanship looking for you? Now, I want to jump ahead here. It's a long article, so I can put this in here. He starts to go into, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he starts to go into the planning. Some of this I can't talk about in here. I just already know how YouTube is, but I'll give you the link to the article. Just want to make sure. Where's the other part I wanted to say? Yes. So let me read this other paragraph, and then I just want to play that little clip, there really quick. See, some of this I can't talk about because I know how YouTube is, but you'll be able to read through it. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to talk about the attack, but I will put the link there for you. But this piece I want to mention here as well. 20 days earlier, Undersecretary Nuland had delivered essentially the same message at a State Department briefing with little press coverage. I want to be very clear to you today, she said in response to a question, if Russia invades one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward. So they were already warning you. They were already telling us ahead of time, yeah, it's not going to move forward. They didn't tell you how it wouldn't move forward. They didn't tell you if they would be involved in it or not. But they did tell you it was not going to move forward. And I believe that's the clip right here.
Well, I'll take a couple questions each. Reuters, Andrea, for you guys the first question.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Chancellor Scholz. Mr. President, I have wanted to ask you about this Nord Stream project that you've long opposed. You didn't mention it just now by name, nor did Chancellor Scholz. Did you receive assurances from Chancellor Scholz today that Germany will in fact pull the plug on this project if Russia invades Ukraine? And did you discuss what the definition of invasion could be? And then Chancellor Scholz, wenn ich Sie fragen darf,
if I may ask you, Chancellor Scholz, you said there was some strategic ambiguity that was needed in terms of sanctions. I just wanted to know whether the sanctions you are envisaging and the EU is working on, and the US as well, are already finished, finalized, or is there still work ongoing? And you're not really saying what the details are. Is that just an excuse for Germany maybe to not support the SWIFT measures?
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
Okay, so are we imagining things? Did he not just say that there? See, sometimes people forget. Like, I don't, for the people who have these clips and save these clips, thank you so much. Because all of a sudden, I don't know if it's mainstream media or what, but all of a sudden people have seemed to have amnesia. Now, again, the name of this article, because we're going to go back up to the top. Yep. It's called How America Took Out the Nord Stream Pipeline. This is by Seymour Hersh. And he's already being smeared and people are already coming out against him, and including, of course, they had to respond. They had to respond. So this is from Sky News. White House dismisses claims U.S. caused the Nord Stream pipeline. Mary said they're not even hiding it anymore. No, look, here they go. So I'm just going to read this first part here. I'm going to make this bigger because this is way too small. The White House has dismissed allegations the U.S. was behind the explosion of the Nord Stream gas pipeline, claiming reports to be utterly false. The allegations published by investigative journalist Seymour Hersh said the blasts, which took place last September, were carried out on the orders given by President Joe Biden. However, the claims have been shut down by a spokesperson for the White House National Council, who added that it is utterly false and complete fiction. Who is this person? And who says that? Guys, come on, say it with me. It is utterly false and complete fiction. Try it, guys. It is utterly false and complete fiction. We can make a song. It is utterly false and complete fiction. It is utterly false. Complete fiction. Oh my God, who said that? And why you say it like that? Utterly false. Oh man, I'm sorry. It's Friday night, okay? It's Friday night. The alleged findings, which have not been corroborated by Reuters, were also criticized by spokespeople for the Oh my God. It has also been criticized by spokespeople for the CIA and the State Department. And you believe them because why? I should trust those groups because why? Okay. The U.S. and NATO have called the incident an act of sabotage, while Sweden and Denmark have both concluded that the pipelines were blown up deliberately. I've had too much tea. I'm sorry. Neither country has spoken up on who may be responsible for the attacks. So they've already, jumped on it. The White House has dismissed. Because it is utterly false and complete fiction. Now, I just want to remind you who this guy is. I mean, come on. This is not someone that I would think, would not do their research. He's been on Democracy Now! He covered Richard Nixon. Listen.
Times, and I was pulled off. I was hired to do Vietnam by Abe Rosenthal, then the editor. He knew our coverage of Vietnam sucked. Watergate happened, and I stayed away from Watergate. Wilbur and Bernstein were running amok. I didn't want anything to do with it. And at some point, late in '72, I was told I had to do Watergate. You try and change in the middle. It's not so easy. But I got going, and I got to know the people in Watergate. And in '74, when Nixon left, about 5 days afterwards, I was well known for my Watergate coverage too in the New York Times. I got a call that with empirical information about Nixon had slugged his wife a couple of times when he left. And when he came back to San Clemente, within a week she was in the emergency room getting treatment.
He beat her. He beat Pat.
He punched her. That's what she said. She came.
This guy covered Watergate. And apparently Richard Nixon apparently was beating his wife, but that's another story. But this guy covered Watergate. So Joshua, that's going to be stuck in my head now. It is utterly false.